Hey everyone, how you doing? Chris, the Thrift Shop Puzzler. Today I got a very, very, very special guest with me today. I have Brian Hoffman, co-founder of Open Bazaar. Brian, how are you doing, man?
Very well, very well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I've been using Open Bazaar for a while, ever since um, the first version of Open Bazaar. But do you want to explain to the folks at home what exactly Open Bazaar is, and maybe a brief introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure. So just for my background, I am the lead developer originally of Open Bazaar, which is a peer-to-peer marketplace, not that dissimilar to like in eBay, where you can find things to buy in Bitcoin, and if you're a merchant, you can sell things in Bitcoin. The novel part of it is that it's all peer to peer. So there's really no eBay company in the middle. You sell things directly, just like you would through like a website, but it's completely peer to peer and private. Prior to that, I was, computer scientist. I worked as a tech consultant for the government, classified agencies, Fortune 500 companies doing encryption work, and it kind of led into Bitcoin and then to Open Bazaar.
Wow, that's incredible. I didn't know that you had such an extensive background, especially working with Fortune 500 companies and stuff like that. And that would explain, your knowledge on a lot of subjects that, a lot of people aren't knowledgeable about in the space. So that is awesome. How did Open Bazaar start initially?
So Open Bazaar, actually, the idea was not originally mine. It was created by a group of guys. It was a mix of dark wallet. I mean, if you're an old time Bitcoiner, you'll know what that is, but most people now don't know what that was. But it was a pretty controversial open source project to try and build like a Bitcoin wallet that nobody could control. And that team, along with the Airbits, which I guess is now Edge Security Wallet, they teamed together for a proof of concept in a hackathon, and they came up with the idea of this marketplace. And so they like in 24 hours they kind of slapped together some code to prove out the idea, and they basically released it as a free code online, hoping people would pick it up and start working with it. And nobody really wanted to do anything with it besides me. Um, and since the entire team was not interested in moving forward, except for me, I renamed it Open Bazaar just for fresh start, and kind of took it from there. And it's just grown like tremendously since then. And that was like 2014.
Yeah, that was crazy. I remember first hearing about Open Bazaar because I've been in the space since 2012, and man, I wish I would have hodled my coins from back then, because I used to use BitPay as a service for my like Shopify type of site. So there was, like, back in those days, there was really nothing going on as far as a marketplace. It was really hard to accept Bitcoin. You had to do it externally. I had a Etsy site, and I'd be in the little thing say, "Oh, I accept Bitcoin" and all that, and that was just the Wild West back then. And I remember actually I was actually OB1 um a user, and I remember where you had to like leave your computer on to like act as a node.
Yep.
Do you remember those days, man? Of course you remember those days. You were
Yeah.
there, and I think for me, I wasn't technically savvy. I couldn't mine or anything, so for me to get Bitcoin somehow, I had to earn it, and through earning it, I need to sell products, and that's how I first got into Bitcoin, was selling Bitcoin pins and like swag and stuff like that. I was actually one of the first people in the space to actually bring Bitcoin swag to the space. I think it was like me and what is it? Bitcoin Not Bombs was another guy that was
Yep.
doing pins at the time, and we were like the very first people doing legitimate swag for the Bitcoin space. And it's just crazy. It's crazy how it comes. So, what are some of the benefits of, or actually, I should say, how does Open Bazaar differ from other marketplaces like eBay and Amazon?
So it's on the surface, it doesn't seem like it's all that much different, because ultimately it's a marketplace, you buy and sell. Um, but that's kind of the trickery of it, right? It's like making it seem like you're using something trustworthy like Amazon, and like the same kind of experience, which has already been perfected over the last 15, 20 years. And underneath it, it's like completely different. So, first and foremost, it uses Bitcoin for payments primarily. Like you have no other option right now. And I think the other marketplaces, they offer credit card and things like that. So that's a big difference. And you can see that as a plus or a minus depending on your position. The other one is that because there is no company kind of running the marketplace, that means that there's no one paying for, a data center to store the website, to do all this, right? So the users have to come together to store all of that. And so you kind of hinted at that. The first version required everybody to be online, because think about it this way. It's like every person is one of those computers in eBay's data center. If it goes out of the data center, part of the network is gone, right? So when you turn off your computer, that store is not available anymore. At least in the first version, it was like that.
Yeah.
And that's the way the peer-to-peer networks work, right? Like they all have to be participating and joining in order to replace the middleman, which is the biggest benefit of the site, which is that you don't have to pay fees to that middleman anymore, because the users are responsible for the network. There's no one to charge you a cost to list your items for sale. There's no charge. When you do sell the item, you don't pay commission or taxes or fees or any of that stuff. It's just straight up. It's just like dealing with cash in person. You give Bitcoin to the merchant, they give you your goods or they perform the service, and that's it. That's the end of it. So I think that's a super powerful call for like merchants for sure. I think on the user side, some of the benefits that people see are privacy. Dealing with Bitcoin in general is not necessarily perfectly private or anonymous, but the fact that the negotiation of I want to buy something from you and like your shipping information and all of that only goes to people that need it, which would be like the merchant. And in some cases, not necessary for like buying an MP3. Like they don't need your address and your credit card information and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
They just need to get the Bitcoin, and so that can be a really huge boon for consumers. And that's just a few of the advantages, but there's a ton of the things that we find valuable about Bitcoin are really showcased in a marketplace.
Yeah, that's really great. And also there's people might be a little bit afraid about going on something that's new, especially with Bitcoin, and there's a lot of stigma in the mainstream media about Bitcoin being like, this payment for drug dealers and all this stuff. So I know Open Bazaar has an escrow service. I call it an escrow service. I know you guys call it something else. So it's basically because people are going to want to know about trust, like how can I trust someone that I don't know that's pretty much anonymous? I'm sending them money and I'm going to get. Do you want to explain the moderator part of Open Bazaar, how that works?
Yes, yeah, sure. So one of the catches with removing the middleman is that there's really no one to handle a dispute. So, it's a trust situation, right? Like if I'm dealing with an anonymous merchant, an anonymous buyer, the buyer has to send him Bitcoin and hope that he gets his Bitcoin swag, right? Like I
Yeah.
have to hope that you're trustworthy enough to give me what I paid for. So the way that we work around that and lessen the level of trust that's required is we use a sort of escrow, which so basically through the magic of Bitcoin and smart contracts, you can create special Bitcoin wallets that the merchant and the buyer kind of co-own, and they can't really move any of that money unless they both agree. So when you're buying something from a merchant, you would put your money into that joint account essentially. And then once you guys are both satisfied that like the money's there and that the merchant delivered what he promised, then you both get together and say, yeah, we're going to give the merchant the money. He earned it, and it gets moved into his private account, which only he controls. So that's kind of the deal. Now it gets a little bit more complex if there's a problem. We have something called moderators, which are basically like customer support. You could kind of consider like when you would reach out to eBay and say, I have a problem. This merchant's not cutting it. I didn't get what I ordered. Instead of eBay, it would be a moderator in Open Bazaar. And right now that can be anybody. So anybody can choose to serve as that. And you have a way to discover those different parties, and you can find one that you trust and use them. And if there's a problem, you file a dispute. They'll get a message. They can talk to both parties, kind of figure out what's going on, ask for information that they need to make a judgment. and then they can decide to either refund all the money to the buyer, give the money to the merchant anyway, split it any combination. And for that, they can decide to charge a fee, and that could be anywhere from free to, whatever they choose. That ahead of time, so you can choose maybe a more expensive but more specialized moderator for a certain type of deal, maybe real estate or a car. If you don't care, maybe you just pick a low cost one that's semi trustworthy. But essentially, there's almost a mini marketplace for moderators. And I think this is just another way to crowdsource dispute resolution rather than having a centralized customer support center that the company that a company owns.
Right. I find that actually one of the most interesting parts about Open Bazaar is the third party moderator, basically like almost like an arbitrator in a way. And what's nice, and you just touched upon this, was that when you sign up for Open Bazaar and you're a buyer or a seller actually too, you can go to the moderators and you can set that up in your settings, and there's different ones, and you could see by their feedback, because everyone has feedback. So that's a great way to judge trust, is to get a moderator that looks like they're trustworthy through the system and through their profiles. And like I said, you can choose different ones, and it's awesome that, if you have a high ticket item like a house, real estate, a boat, a freaking Lamborghini, it's nice to have that option, because to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you're a buyer, there is two options. There's instant payment, and then there's the moderated payment, correct?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're dealing with, like, I don't know, let's say, McDonald's has got a website, on Open Bazaar, and they're trustworthy, right? You have no fear that they're going to scam you probably. And you can vet that. Then you may just direct payment because it's faster. And, I think the merchants would prefer that because they can just get the money right away. But, if you're dealing with like somebody you don't know, this is one level of extra protection, to protect the buyer. Because when it comes to cryptocurrency, I think the biggest thing that people make the mistake of doing is that they get kind of lazy when it comes to protecting themselves. And that goes with just protecting their coins or any of that stuff. And it's like 10x more dangerous on marketplaces because you're dealing with people you don't know, and, not everybody's out there to like help you out. So, I think using Bitcoin changes it in that you can't just be lazy and think, oh, we're going to get the credit card company to reverse our charges.
Right.
You have to be a little more diligent, and the moderators are included in that. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. For those that aren't in the crypto space, it still is kind of the Wild West. I got in 2012. I lost 250,000 Ripple during the Cryptsy debacle, the whole Cryptsy exit, and my brother lost 3,000 Litecoin during that whole thing. So it's like, and that's not even half of the stuff that he's lost. So it's definitely. Cryptocurrency, you guys have to do your research. There's definitely trust involved. Open Bazaar is pretty cool because they have a wallet you can you can deposit your Bitcoin in there. And actually, if you have other coins too, you guys have Shapeshift. Do you want to explain Shapeshift real quick?
Yeah, so Shapeshift is just a quick and easy way to get from other kinds of coins into whatever you want to. So if you're trying to get into Litecoin to make a payment for something, you can switch your Bitcoin into Litecoin or your Dogecoin into Litecoin or whatever. In our case, because Open Bazaar right now, at the moment, only accepts Bitcoin payments, you can actually use Shapeshift to convert like your Ethereum or your Ether or other coins into Bitcoin to make payments on Open Bazaar. And it's pretty simple. It's just like a little pop-up, tells you where to send your coin. You just tell it, you just send the coins to that, and then Shapeshift will actually pay your Open Bazaar bill for you in the app, and you're off. There is one catch. You won't get refunds in your original coin, so you'd get refunds back in your Bitcoin wallet. But pretty soon we're going to be introducing Bitcoin Cash and Zcash, and we're hoping to bring Litecoin native payments after that as well. So those four would all be just straight up native options. You could pay and receive refunds in those coins.
Yeah, that's really cool. I actually used Shapeshift for the first time the other day, and there was a fee associated with that. Do you guys judge the fees for that, or is it Shapeshift pulls a fee, or is it the network fee when it comes to Shapeshift fees?
Shapeshift actually has like a standard fee that they charge for that service. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So For those that don't know, Open Bazaar is not a website that you can go to like eBay or Amazon to list. Do you want to explain the GUI involved, or actually the how the process works to set up an Open Bazaar account?
So yeah, the first phase of Open Bazaar is really just a desktop app. We don't have mobile, or it's not available through a website yet. And so it's available on all the major operating systems, but you just download the desktop app from openbazaar.org, and you install it. It's pretty simple. There's no like settings or anything. You just one click install. And once you're up and running, I mean, you can just immediately start listing products for sale, and you're off and running. It's really takes only a few minutes. I mean, you've done it before. It's pretty simple. I mean, if you want to get complex, it may take some time, but like pretty much just get started, you're right away. And if you're buying, it's even easier. You can just start browsing and buying right away.
Yeah, it was super easy to list and to download. And isn't there a way to like I think there's a way that you can host a server or have your own server, or like some kind of like masked thing going on with the server? Am I speaking Chinese? I don't know. I like something with the server.
Yeah, so so the way that it works is like, just kind of like the casual user out of the box, you can just download it right off the site and run it,
Yeah.
and you're connected. But if you're a more advanced user, and let's say maybe you want to connect to it from other computers and stuff rather than just run it on one, you can actually choose to run the peer-to-peer part like on a virtual server, maybe like at Amazon or DigitalOcean. And when you do that, your store or your peer will stay online 24/7, and you can just fire up the app and connect to it remotely. And then you don't have to run the app all the time on your local computer. You can just spin it up when you want to like check out what's going on, and you can still accept orders and do all that. So that's a good option for people that want their site to be really fast and like highly available to their customers. But for buyers, maybe it doesn't make sense because they just jump on and buy and jump off. So it's kind of you got a couple options as to what you want to do.
Yeah, that's cool. Thanks for explaining that, by the way, because I was curious how that worked. I'm one of the out of the box users that I would just rather, host the server on my own IP as soon as like I get on, log in, open it up, let it sit there and run on the background for that. What were some of the challenges developing Open Bazaar?
So, I mean, there've been a ton. We've been building it for, I guess, well, dang, almost, I guess it would be 4 years in April. So it's been a long time. We've gone through a bunch of different iterations. But the biggest challenge really, I think, is um, matching up like what the technology can do right now and user expectations. I mean, we've all used these types of websites. We've all set up Shopify stores. We've done all these things for many years, and we have high expectations of how they should operate because they're so mature. But crypto is just super early, and so I mean, one example is just like look for another competitor at Open Bazaar right now, and there's just like a very small handful of them, but they're like even way further behind than we are, and we're pretty simple. So we have a long way to go, and I think the development piece is really challenging. Like we make it look as nice and easy to use as possible, but for instance, moderators. If you make the mistake of choosing bad moderators or like doing business with somebody who's not trustworthy, and you're not like following up, you're at risk. And I think those other platforms are able to make you whole if something happens to you. In Open Bazaar's case, we may get an email that like, oh, I got scammed for some amount of money. Help me, help me, help me. Can I get a refund? And it's like, well, we don't have your money and we have no recourse, right? Like the users are controlling the network. It's the same with Bitcoin. If you send your Bitcoin off to the, into the mist, Satoshi's not going to come back and like give you a discount or a refund.
Right.
And that's really hard for you, the normal user to understand. It's definitely, like you said, the wild, wild west. And we're working really hard to try and improve the technology, improve reputation systems, privacy, security of the wallet, all that stuff to make it closer to parity with those other platforms.
Yeah, definitely. I got a hot button question for you, man. And I've been thinking about this ever since I started Obi-Wan. is like, so let's say Amazon tomorrow or eBay starts accepting Bitcoin. What does that
Yeah.
mean for Open Bazaar?
Well, I mean, I think ultimately, they're still going to, the reason why they do this is because they get compensation for facilitating the trade, and so there still will probably most likely be some kind of fee introduced, and that may be a deterrent for a lot of people. It's not going to solve the problem for merchants. For instance, if I'm selling video or music on the iTunes store, right? Let's say they accept Bitcoin, they're still going to take 40% or 30% from the creator for that sale, right? um, I think in an open bazaar, if we can start to compete and start to do things at like massive volume, that taking that cutaway, that's a huge margin for a lot of people. I mean, if you're moving like, some of these e-commerce people I talk to are like selling like $1 million worth of revenue every month. You take like 30% of a cut of that, or like even 10%. That's a massive amount of money that they're taking out of your pocket. And if the technology exists where that's not necessary, it's like, why? And I don't think that an Amazon or an eBay can really ever compete with that unless they figure out some other business model. It just always will be that way. Um, but I do think that like it will bring a lot of visibility to the space. Um, if they're serious about it, maybe they start to look at open bazaar type businesses and try and figure out how they could use that instead of just replacing everything they have. I don't know. There's a lot of ways it could go. But my understanding is that the benefits that they get from the marketplace is understanding every single thing about their customers, right? Everything you sell, what you're pricing it at, how many did you sell last month? What are you clicking on? What are you searching for? When they realize that with crypto, like you don't have that information, I don't know if it's that appealing to them, and that's probably a big reason why they haven't done much in the space already.
Yeah, I think also there's a lot of people that just don't understand Bitcoin. I talk to people every day about Bitcoin, and you'd be surprised. I mean, like there's a lot of people that just don't understand the technology. They don't understand
Yeah.
how, the proof of work between what the difference between proof of work and proof of stake, what actually a blockchain does, the algorithm, what the miners actually do. So there's a whole other thing that goes into Bitcoin and understanding that. And that's actually a very good answer, man, about you're right. You guys don't have you have little fees. You have zero fees on Open Bazaar as far as if someone buys or sells something, and I think that's a big plus. And I was talking to this about that thing the other day about what if Amazon or whatever, what's going to happen with Open Bazaar, and they brought up the point where sometimes people that can't use eBay or Amazon for any specific reason, like having a bank account or something like that, Open Bazaar still will be able to facilitate a transaction, if someone that's like in a third world country or something like that. So I think that is awesome. Um, I know you guys are developing a mobile app, and I'm one of the actually beta testers. So thank you guys for accepting my, I've got your invitation and I signed up right away because I was very excited. Do you want to talk about real quick the mobile app?
Yeah, sure. So the mobile app has been something we've had in the works for quite a while. We talk about technical challenges. This is another area where it's super hard, and no one's really doing this right now. So there's a lot of like blockchain mobile apps, but essentially what the way that they operate is that it's they're connecting to, like, let's say I create Brian's app, and they connect to my web server from their mobile app, and then my web server can talk to the blockchain and just kind of facilitates the man in the middle kind of thing, right? Like it helps you do it. That's pretty simple to build. What's harder is creating a peer-to-peer app. So all of the technology, all the connection kind of code to like how does this mobile app talk to another mobile app, all that stuff right now is running on your desktop in our desktop version. Now you put it on a mobile device. How do you handle all that? What does the battery power look like? What is the bandwidth? You're doing a lot of connections. You're not just hitting a web server when you need something. So there's a lot of like things you have to be concerned with when you're moving this over to a mobile space. Initially, we were looking at doing something where we ask people to run their Open Bazaar on their desktop or maybe on a virtual server, and then the mobile app is just a dumb app. It talks to that server, and and that's just not, it's not a great option, because like the average user is not going to go through the trouble of setting up a server and all that.
Right.
Recently, we've been able to figure out how to run all of the code on the actual mobile phone. And so that means you are definitely completely decentralized. Every app is its own peer, and it's all self-contained on the device. So when you search and buy something on Open Bazaar using the mobile app, you're connecting directly to someone else. You're not going through any Open Bazaar servers, OB1 servers, any of that stuff, which is really, really cool. And we made that breakthrough recently, and so we're working to kind of finish up the app, and we're hoping to get it out. Maybe, I don't know, I won't give a date because everything always takes longer than it seems. But I mean, you've been using it. It's coming along, and we're excited to get something out as soon as humanly possible.
Yeah, it's really cool and really clean. And it'll be nice to be able to, pretty much go to your account and do all your kind of talking to your buyers or sellers and everything like that. So that is awesome. So what does the 2018 roadmap look like for Open Bazaar?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously in the short to midterm, it's going to be rolling out new currencies for the network. Fees are pretty high on Bitcoin right now, and we've got a huge demand for Bitcoin Cash and Zcash and some of these others. So we're really excited to see that roll out. The other big news that we did recently is that we're going to be introducing a token, which it seems like everybody's doing that these days. But the cool thing about the token, I think, or the thing that's has a lot of potential about the token is not necessarily like, it's not something that may touch every single user right away, but for merchants, it should be super exciting, because one of the problems with Open Bazaar is like, how do you get your good products and services in front of people? It's a little challenging right now. You kind of have to like do a lot of the grunt work yourself by like promoting it and pushing it. And
I know all exactly about
that. And it's hard. So what the token is going to facilitate is almost kind of like a Google AdSense type of thing, or AdWords. So like if people are searching for T-shirts, Bitcoin T-shirts in the thing, now you can actually use the token to promote your services onto that page. Another cool thing is that if you are, let's say like you're a realtor and you're finding all these like really good listings on Open Bazaar for realty, and you'll be able to curate it into a page, almost like a Pinterest pin board, of all the things that you think are great. And if people subscribe to that board and they're going to it, you can actually monetize that through the token. So you'll be rewarded with those tokens, and then you can turn around and sell those back to advertisers or merchants to promote their listings. And like it's a circular thing. So it does two things. One, it helps merchants really improve their business and help them like get more visibility. And the second thing is it helps other people earn value for participating in the network and making it better by helping people find good stuff and not just a bunch of crap. So we think it'll be really cool. One of the unique things about it compared to a lot of other tokens is it's not like at the core level of what Open Bazaar is. It's kind of almost on like another level above, and it's opt-in. And we're gonna roll it out and see what people are, how they're using it and if it's beneficial. We think it's pretty exciting. And and then obviously beyond that is mobile and web. So we're going to start trying to get some kind of web app out, and it may start as being just maybe like a buyer only option. So like now you won't, as a merchant on Open Bazaar, you would still have to run the app to run your store,
right?
But buyers would have a lot less friction because they could just go to like, let's say openbazaar.com, buy the product and everything there. And they don't have to go through the problem of like installing an app and all that just to buy something. And now I think that will like increase volume on people's stores like tremendously.
Yeah, I think it makes total sense with the app for that, and also the tokens, the advertising portion of that makes total sense having its own separate thing, and I can't wait to test that out. So Brian, you have a YouTube channel? I think I've seen it, your YouTube channel.
Yes, I do. It's a pretty unique one, I guess.
Yeah.
It's youtube.com/
Yeah, I'll
I don't know, username. Yeah,
yeah,
you
what
can
I'll
link
do is
it.
I'll
Yeah.
leave a link below because the URLs for YouTube are
Like
insane. If
awful.
you
Yeah.
don't create your own personal one, it's nuts. For my I actually got I got thriftshop-hustler.com, and the
Yeah.
domain directs to my YouTube channel. So if I ever want to say, hey, go check out my YouTube channel, go to thriftshop-hustler.com. It's so much easier for that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
haven't got that advanced yet, so
yeah, yeah,
it's not
but
that professional.
no, your YouTube channel is pretty funny. You're kind of like oh, I guess you'd call it like bad lip reading, but it's not really like that. It's you do some cryptocurrency parodies, and I found the one with oh, what was it? It was like Roger Ver and some other guy was having a heated interview,
Yeah.
and you did that, and I thought I was dying, man. So like keep doing those because it's I think in the space we need to lighten up a little bit because you go on Twitter and it's just nuts and everyone's at each other's throat and it's kind of weird because you'd think like everyone would be out for the same thing, but there's so many different coins and everyone's shilling, their
Yeah.
thing, and like so it's hard to get unification and people to it's very tribal, I should say, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much at stake, and I think, a lot of us have been around since it was so tiny, and you almost you go to a conference and you knew everybody every time you go, and now it's like there's this whole fresh batch of people interested every time you go somewhere, and I think the bigger it gets, the harder it is to really come to agreement in entirety. Like not everybody's going to agree with what it should be, what it should do, where we should, what direction's next. So yeah, you're right. And this is it's just funny. I think a lot of people take themselves like way too seriously in this. I mean, I know that money's at stake, and when it comes to like building technology, it's important to be serious
yeah,
about it.
absolutely.
But at the same time, what's the fun of technology and like entrepreneurialism if like you're not enjoying what you're doing? And this is just kind of a way for people to like sit back and go, okay, maybe maybe we're being a little ridiculous here. So
Yeah, I was totally laughing. Actually, that video caused me to go back and look at the actual Roger Ver interview, and that was a whole interesting thing in itself. So, Brian, lastly, I want to thank you, man, for wearing my Open Bazaar design shirt to that token conference, man. I really appreciate that kind of stuff, and it honestly really inspires me to keep producing and creating, shirts and being part of this space. So I want to thank you for that.
hey, no problem, man. I'm always
Yep.
shilling Bitcoin. I'm wearing my Star Wars Bitcoin shirt today,
Is
and,
that
and
is that BTC Emporium shirt, or
I
do you
have no
remember?
this one. I have no idea. I can't even remember where I got it from. But
Yeah,
but my whole wardrobe is pretty much Bitcoin. So
that's so funny.
but no, I appreciate it. This is good stuff, and I'm really picky about my t-shirts. My wife knows that. So the ones I wear, I definitely like a lot. So
Yeah, and it's Star Wars. Are you going to see Star Wars this weekend?
tonight actually,
Yeah,
we have tickets for tonight. So
it's really good. It's really good. If you're a Star Wars fan, everyone out there, it is everything you can hope for. That's all I'm going to say.
all right.
All right, Brian. So thank you very much, man. Is there any last final thoughts you have before we go?
No, I mean, other than, if you found any of this interesting, like, please go to openbazaar.org and download it and check it out. I mean, the only way it gets better is for people to use it. And if you want to know more, we're on every single social platform known to man. We have Discord, Telegram, Slack, Reddit. We're everywhere. So there's somewhere you can be chatting about what we're doing. And just thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thanks again. For everyone watching out there, I will leave links to Brian's sites below, Open Bazaar and his Twitter account, and you guys can check that out. So once again, Brian, thank you very much. And everyone, definitely go check out Open Bazaar, and we'll see you next time.